This is the continuation of a chapter motion from Karnataka TET syllabus. This is the second part of the chapter. Hi friends, in our previous video, we discussed definitions, types of motions, laws and equations of motions. We will continue this chapter in this class by discussing the Newton's laws of motions and the numericals based on it. Also, we will discuss multiple choice questions based on this entire chapter of motion. Before starting the class, I would like to remind you all to subscribe to my channel if you are watching my video for the first time, and if you are already a subscriber and if you like my work, please do like my videos and share them among your friends and other aspirants. Okay, let us start our class. Firstly, let us have a quick recap. In our previous class of motion chapter, we have discussed all the equations of motions and we learned a trick to find the distance traveled by the body at nth second if the body is having retardation, and the time period of pendulum we learned, and also we learned kinetic energy and potential energy. The link for the previous lecture of motion, that is motion part 1 class, will be given in the description. Please do watch that lecture and then only come back and watch this lecture. It will help you all, because there will be some sort of discontinuity if you watch this lecture all of a sudden, right? Because I am going to solve a few multiple choice questions also which are based on our previous lecture. Okay. I hope that you all have learned these formulae as I suggested you all to do so in my previous class. Okay, keeping all this in mind, let us proceed. First, I am going to solve a few multiple choice questions purely based on these equations and the concept of motion. Okay. And all these questions are very important questions. Any of one question I am expecting this time in Karnataka TET. Okay. First question is, what does the slope of the distance time graph give? In our previous class, we learned how to draw the distance time graph, right? What was the slope? If you recall, it was a speed. If you don't even recall the graph also, you just know that speed is equal to distance upon time, right? So you can apply that formula. You will come to know that distance by time graph should give a speed as the slope. Okay. Next question. What does the slope of the velocity time graph give? Like distance time graph gives speed, in the same manner velocity time graph should give acceleration, or velocity upon time is acceleration, or rate of change of velocity will give us acceleration. So option C, acceleration, will be the correct answer. Okay. Next question. What would be the displacement of a particle moving in a circular path of radius r after a displacement of half a circle? See, this question I discussed in our previous class of this chapter also. In motion part 1 also I have discussed this question. Again I am repeating this question because this is a very important question. The question will just give you a idea about displacement, particularly in a circular path. If the body is having displacement for half a circle, at that time we will measure the radius of the circle. That radius of the circle 2 times we will measure, because from the center till one point we will go, and again from the center till the other point we will go. Means its initial point is at one point of the circle and its final point is the opposite point on that circle. If you draw a line connecting to this initial point and final point of that particle, then you will understand that the distance between the initial and final point inside the circle is going to be the diameter. That diameter is equal to 2r. Obviously, right? I have explained the same question in our previous lecture by giving a diagram also. If you have attended that lecture, then this will be very easy for you. This question is just like a quick recap for us. Okay. So the answer will be 2r. Okay. But why 2r? Again, I'll repeat it for you. After half a circle, the particle will be diametrically opposite to its origin. So displacement will be equal to the diameter, and diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Okay. Next question. The path length traveled by a body in a given time interval is known as. You have to carefully read the question every time. They are talking about the path length. They are not talking about the distance between the initial position and the final position. The path length. Path length is nothing but distance. If they were telling about the initial position and final position of the body, and if you have to find the distance between those two positions, then you say that it is a displacement. Okay. Anyway, in options they have not given displacement, so this question became very easy for us. Directly you can tick distance as the right answer. But if in case if they give displacement also in option, then you must know that path length is distance. Okay. And the shortest distance between the initial point and final position of the body is the displacement. Okay. Next question. Which of the following situations is true and possible? You have to read the options. Anyway, the fourth option is all of the above. You have to read the first three options and you have to decide that which of the situation is true and which one is possible also. First is, if the velocity of a body is 0, then the acceleration can be non-zero. Is it true and is it possible? Think. Till then I'll read next option. Option B. A body moving at a constant velocity can have acceleration. Number C. The magnitude of distance and displacement are equal in a circular motion. See, according to me, if I go from below, option C, the magnitude of distance and displacement are equal in a circular motion. This is absolutely wrong and it is not possible. Imagine we discussed the question number 3, right? In a circle, if half of the circle the body is moving, then the displacement is 2r. Then what will be the distance? Distance will be half of the circumference of the circle. And they are not going to be equal, right? So this is absolutely wrong. Next is option B. If I see, a body moving at a constant velocity can have acceleration. This is also absolutely wrong. A constant velocity can never lead to acceleration. A body moving at constant velocity will never have acceleration, because velocity by time is acceleration, means rate of change of velocity will give you acceleration. Constant velocity means velocity is not changing. If velocity is not changing, then how can acceleration be created? It is not possible. So option B is also absolutely wrong. Now because B and C are wrong, so D is also obviously wrong, because all of the above is not right, right? Then option A, if the velocity of a body is 0, then the acceleration can be non-zero. This is true, and yes friends, this is possible also. You will ask, how is it possible, madam? If velocity of body is 0, then how can acceleration exist? Because we are telling acceleration can be non-zero, right? Friends, acceleration can exist if the velocity of a body is 0. But then the situation should be like this. What should be the situation? This is the situation. If you are throwing a ball and ball will go till up at one point and momentarily it will stop and then it will come back. At that moment when that ball stopped for a millisecond, at that time velocity was 0, right? For that ball. But was acceleration 0? No, it was non-zero. Correct? That's the reason why the ball could come down, right? If the acceleration was also 0, then the ball would have stayed there only. Isn't it? That ball will come down. Correct? That's why we say that it is possible to have a non-zero value of acceleration when the velocity of body is 0. But this is the scenario. You have to understand the scenario. That's why I put this picture also. Okay. Next question. Velocity is defined as dash per time. Of course, velocity is defined as displacement per time. If there was speed, we would say distance. Okay, you have to remember this. Distance is related to speed. Displacement is related to velocity. Because in distance, we will not see the direction. So, we will say that speed, it is a scalar quantity. In displacement, we see the direction. So, we say that the body has velocity, means it is a vector quantity. Okay. So, option B will be the right answer because velocity is defined as displacement per unit time. Okay. Let's move on for the next question. Question number 7. A bus is moving with speed of 10 meter per second. How much time required to stop that bus if driver decelerate it at the rate of 2 meter per second square? Here 4 options are given. Decelerate means the driver is slowing down the bus to stop it ultimately. Okay, retardation or deceleration, both are same words. Now what is given and what we have to calculate, we should understand it here. First they have given us initial speed, which will be u, that is 10 meter per second. And acceleration is given as 2 meter per second square. But the bus driver is stopping the bus. He is trying to stop the bus. Means he is reducing this velocity of the bus. That's why we call it deceleration. And that's why we will put a minus sign for that acceleration. Because deceleration is nothing but negative acceleration. Minus 2 meter per second square. All this we have discussed in our previous video, friends. Okay, if you have attended that video, nothing will seem to be new here for you all. Next, finally, the bus is stopping, right? So, what will be the final speed V? It will be 0 meter per second square. Now, the question they have asked is how much time is required to stop that bus? That we have to find. Now, by understanding what is given, at that time, we should get an idea about which formula we have to use. Initial velocity is there, acceleration is there, final velocity is there, just a time is not there. So we can simply use V is equal to U plus AT. We can substitute and we can find the value of the time required to stop that bus. Okay. Here it comes out to be 5 seconds. So option A will be the right answer. In the same manner, you can use the other two equations of motions also. It depends on what is given and what is asked. When you write down what is given in the margin, then you will get an idea which formula you have to use. Okay. Only thing is you should learn all this formulae. Then you can by yourself apply those formulae for any numerical. Okay. Then let's move on for the next question. Question number 8. A passenger in a moving train tosses a coin that falls behind him. It means that the motion of a train is uniform, accelerated, retarded along circular tracks. A passenger is moving in a train. He is tossing up the coin. Tossing up the coin means he is throwing that coin upwards. That coin, it will fall behind him. Now with this situation, you have to tell that whether the motion of the train is uniform, accelerated, retarded or along circular tracks. Uniform though it can't be. Because if it was uniform means that coin, it would fall there only. Correct? Then along circular tracks also it will not be. Because that will be the another scenario. Either it should be accelerated or it should be retarded. The answer will be accelerated because the train is moving front side, correct? The coin is falling behind that man. It means that the train is moving with a more and more speed. That's why we say that the train is accelerated. If the train was slowing down, then we would say that it is retarded. But the train is not slowing down, it is moving. Okay, that's why we say that the motion of the train is accelerated. Next question. If a moving body comes to rest, then its acceleration is, I explained you already, it is negative acceleration, or we call it as deceleration, or we call it as retardation. Okay. Now let's talk about Newton's laws of motion. There are three Newton's laws of motion. First law states that a body is at rest or uniform motion and it will continue to do so. That means it will be at rest or uniform motion until and unless you apply an external force. For example, this trolley, it will not move until and unless you push it, right? So this is Newton's law of motion. We were talking about inertia in gravitation chapter. So this Newton's first law of motion talks about inertia. Now coming to second law, it talks about force. It states that the force on an object is equal to its mass times its acceleration. Force F is equal to mass into acceleration. For example, here there are two cars. One is yellow car and one is red car. The yellow car is moving on its way. Red car is coming from the side and hitting it as shown in this picture. Now, how much fast that red car was, so much impact will be put on the yellow car. So much force will be applied on the yellow car. Okay. If the acceleration or if the velocity of the car will be of higher speed, then more damage will be caused to the yellow car. Now, Newton's third law talks about action and reaction. It states that there is an equal and opposite reaction for every action. That means if one body is putting an external force on the other body, then the other body will also put the same force on it at the first time. This is known as Newton's third law. After having an idea about all the three laws, we will have to give importance to one law, which is Newton's second law, because it deals with the momentum also. We have not learned about momentum, right? We need to learn about momentum when we learn about Newton's second law. Okay, what is momentum? It is nothing but the product of mass of the body and velocity of that body. The symbol for momentum is P, and that will be equal to mass m into velocity v of that body. Okay, basically momentum P is equals to m into v. You have to remember this formula. With this formula only, we can derive Newton's second law also in another way. We can derive it ultimately to F is equal to delta P upon T. Means the force is equal to rate of change of momentum. This is also Newton's second law only. Okay. I am not teaching you the derivation here because you are having multiple choice questions, right? Then why do we waste time in derivations and all? Directly, if we know the formulas, then we can apply numericals, right? So, because force is equal to mass into velocity and momentum is equal to mass into velocity, we can treat these both formulas together and we can ultimately find three more formulae. The first one is that force is equal to change in momentum upon time. Rate of change of momentum means delta P by T. Next one is F is equal to delta mv by T, because momentum is mass into velocity, right? So you can substitute it there and we can get F is equals to delta mv by T. Correct? But can the mass of the body change? It will not change, right? But velocity can change. The body, if it is not having uniform velocity, the body may slow down or may speed up. That's why the velocity of the body will change. So I will put delta only till V, not to M. So basically I can conclude that force is equals to mass into delta V by T. But what is delta V by T? Rate of change of velocity is nothing but acceleration, right? So F is equal to m into A. Okay, that is how we can play with momentum and force formulae and we can interderive both formulas. Okay, these concepts are important here because they can ask numericals based on these formulae. That's the reason why I am teaching you this concept of momentum here. Okay, now based on this I will discuss few multiple choice questions. Okay, then you will get more clarity on what I was telling. Okay, all these questions are very important, so carefully, please do carefully watch this lecture. The question is, if the mass of the body is doubled, and its velocity becomes half, then the linear momentum of the body will. This is such an interesting question. We know that momentum is equal to mass into velocity. They are telling that mass became doubled, means write 2 in place of m, and velocity, it became half, write half in place of velocity. 2 into half, 2 will get cancelled, right? So momentum will be equal to 1, means it did not change, as it is there, correct? That's why we can say that momentum will remain the same. Okay, take this numerical as an assignment, friends. You have to write it down and confirm whether the linear momentum of the body will remain same or no. Just to use this formula, P is equal to m into v. Okay, in place of m you write 2, in place of velocity you write half. Okay, next question. The linear momentum of an object is 250 gram centimeter per second. If the velocity of the object is 5 meter per second, then the mass of the object is. Directly you can use the formula, right? The formula is P is equal to m into v. We have the velocity, but they have given that velocity in meter per second and momentum is in gram centimeter per second. So we need to convert things, right? We cannot just substitute the values and find the answer without matching the units. All units should be SI units. So I will convert 5 meter per second into centimeter per second. Okay, because 1 meter is equals to 100 centimeter. You multiply 5 into 100. That will be your velocity. And what about momentum? They have given 250 gram centimeter per second. Now you substitute to find the mass. We know that P is equals to m into v, or m will become P by v. Correct? So P is 250 upon V is 500. You'll get half or 0.5 grams. That will be your mass. Okay. Option A is the right answer. Here I am not writing anything. I am just explaining you with the typed answers because I want you all to work out, friends. Okay. If you are having doubt right now, you have to pause the video and you have to work out by yourself. Because unless and until you work out by yourself, it will not help you in the examination. Just watching the video will never help. Only your practice will help. I am only there to guide you all. Okay, I can give you all direction. I can give you the concepts. I can explain them. I can explain the concepts to you all. I can give you a direction, the way you can learn. But practice you only have to do by yourself. Okay. And these are simple numericals according to me. That's why I'm not writing here anything. I want you all to work out by your own. Okay. If I made a mistake anywhere, please do let me know in the comment section. But to find out that mistake, you should work out by yourself. Okay. See friends, I feel very happy when anyone find out my mistake. I don't know why. I feel like great. Wow. If someone has found my mistake, I feel like okay, that person, he or she, he has attended the class carefully and he has found it the mistake. That means the person who has found my mistake, he or she, himself or herself will never do that mistake again in future. Okay, that's why I feel happy. Mistakes no one will do wantedly. Sometimes I do wantedly and sometimes happens. Mistakes happen, right? But to find out my mistake, you have to work out the sums. You have to attend the class and you have to work out by yourselves. Okay. So I'll be very happy if you find my mistakes. Okay. Do let me know in the comment section if I make any mistake in this class. Okay. Next question. A goalkeeper in a football game pulls his hands backwards after holding the ball short at the goal. This enables the goalkeeper to increase the rate of change of momentum, decrease the rate of change of momentum, increase the force exerted by the balls on the hands, exert larger force on the ball. So what is the work of a goalkeeper basically? His work is to stop the ball from going into the court, right? He will stop the ball. If that goalkeeper, if he pulls his hands backwards for holding the ball, what is the meaning? It means that he is trying to stop that ball. He is trying to decrease the velocity of that ball. Then only he could hold it, right? Or else that ball could have gone. that goalkeeper could have fallen down with when the ball hit him. Correct? So the goalkeeper was successful in changing the momentum of the ball. But how did he change the momentum? Either he decreased or increased. He stopped the ball, right? That means he decreased the rate of change of momentum. He decreased the velocity of that ball. Okay, that's why he was able to catch that ball. So option B will be the right answer. Okay, I hope you got it. The goalkeeper, he tried to stop that ball, means he tried to decrease the velocity of the ball, or in other words, momentum of the ball, the rate of change of momentum of the ball. Okay, next question. Which law is known as the law of inertia? By this time you should be knowing the answer for this. Of course it is first law of motion, because the Newton's first law of motion says that a static body will remain as it is. It will remain motionless, and a body in motion will stay in motion as it is. Till when? Until a force acts on it. Therefore, Newton's first law is associated with inertia and is also known as law of inertia. So, the answer to this question is Newton's first law of motion. Actually, we have discussed everything about inertia in the chapter gravitation. Yes, in gravitation class, we have discussed law of inertia. I'll give the link of the chapter where I have taught gravitation for Karnataka TET. I'll give that link in the description. Please do go and watch that lecture also. It is very, very useful from Karnataka TET point of view. Okay. Next question. What causes the motion of a body which is initially in the state of rest? Of course, either it is in state of rest or of uniform motion. If the body is initially there and it is changing its position, means some force has been applied on it, right? So, option A, force should be the right answer. Next question. People sitting in a moving bus experience a jerk when the bus stops. This is due to inertia of motion, inertia of rest, inertia of turning, inertia of acceleration. See, inertia of acceleration, to you remove, nothing of that sort is there. Inertia of turning means if the bus is turning, then only this concept will come. Here they are not telling about the bus is turning, right? Now let's talk about two inertias, inertia of motion and inertia of rest. If the bus is stopping means you are moving along with the bus, right? Now bus is stopping means you had to stop with the bus because of inertia of motion. You were there in motion along with the bus, correct? So option A, inertia of motion will be the right answer. Don't worry if you have not understood. I'll explain you inertia of rest also. I'll give this example. Passengers sitting in a stationary car experience a jerk when the car suddenly starts. This is due to, now it comes, inertia of rest comes into picture. Now I'll explain you again. When the car will start, no, people while sitting in the car, they experience one sudden jerk. Why they experience this jerk? Because when the car was stopped, it was stationary, people were also stationary with it. Correct? That's why we say that they were having inertia of rest. When car starts, inertia of car will change from rest to the motion. But inertia of people still remain that of rest for some time, for some milliseconds maybe. That's why they experience the jerk. Okay. So that inertia of the people is remaining for some millisecond. Means people are tending to be at rest. That's why we call it as inertia of rest. In this case, what was happening? The bus was stopping. Means people were moving along with the bus, right? So people want to continuously move. But because bus is stopping, that's why they will inevitably, they are helpless. They have to stop, right? Because the bus is stopped. But before that they were moving, right? So they will experience one jerk. They will go front or they will go back while the bus is stopping or while the bus is starting. Okay. If the bus is moving and stops means it was moving, right? That's why we say inertia of motion. Here the bus was stopped means inertia of rest is there, but then it started moving, correct? I hope you understood. To make you all understand inertia of motion and inertia of rest, I took these two examples. Okay, next question. They can ask you very simple questions or very tough questions. The questions could be as simple as this question. They are just telling you to relate the units of force, Newton and dyne. What is the value of 1 Newton in terms of dyne? 1 Newton is equal to 10 to the power 5 dyne. You have to remember this number, okay? It's very important actually. 1 Newton is equal to 10 to the power 5 dyne. Next question. This question is also based on conversion only, but this is also very important because this is a chapter of motion, right? So the question is 1 kilometer per hour is equal to dash meter per second. Now to solve this question, you should know few things. What are they? 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters and 1 hour is equal to 3600 seconds. You should know these two things, correct? Now just you have to multiply and divide. You multiply 1000 meters with 1. In place of kilometer, you write 1000. In place of hour, you write 3600. It is per hour, right? So 1 kilometer per hour means 1 kilometer by hour. In place of kilometer, I have written 1000 meters and in place of hours, I have written 3600 seconds. Okay. If you do the mathematics here, if you do cancellation and division and all that, you will get this answer 0.277 meter per second. Okay. I have given you typed answer here. You should do by yourself and let me know whether my answer is correct or no. Okay. Another question I am giving you as assignment. This is question number 20. Which are laws of Newton's? Law stating action and reaction are equal and opposite. Product of mass and acceleration. Tendency of a body to oppose any change in its state of rest or uniform motion. Or all of the above. Which option is the right option for this question? You should let me know your answers in the comment section. Okay friends, this finishes your chapter motion. I have done 2 parts to finish this chapter. This is part 2. Part 1 I have already uploaded. I'll give you the link in the description. It's better that you watch both lectures at a time continuously back to back because you'll have idea, right? So much is more than enough. You don't need to read anything else, I feel. If you are perfect with these 2 classes now, then none of your answer will be wrong from these chapters. Okay. Okay friends, before signing off, I want to remind you all, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. And also we have a Telegram channel. If you are new to this channel or if you are watching my video for the first time, you will get the Telegram channel link in the description. Please do join the Telegram channel because we are also having one group there. In that group, we keep on discussing things and we share material and whatever important points. Sometimes I also conduct a poll and know your opinion about how to take classes and all that. Whatever important information is there, I keep sharing there. Okay. Even you can ask your doubts also in the Telegram channel. I will answer your doubts. Okay, friends. Keep working hard. All the best. Bye.